So, I've mentioned this a lot in my Facebook posts about my cancer battle and why I feel that it's always important to pay it forward. So I'm gonna, try to talk about this as quickly as I can, or you know, just kind of get into detail. May not necessarily be as quickly as possible, but kind of tell the story a little bit. Um, my grandmother, and I had mentioned this in a previous post on Facebook. My grandmother, my mom's mom, she died right after I was born. I was 3 months old, and she was 61 years of age. She died in October of 1986. She had congestive heart failure. Now, before any of this cancer stuff was going on, my grandmother, she knew. I don't know how she knew. I'll never understand how any of that makes sense, but she knew. She knew that something was wrong. She laid, she when I was a baby, she laid me across her lap and she gently passed her hand over me. She didn't touch me, but she passed her hand over me real gently, real slowly, and she came as close to me without touching me, and she knew. And you have to get this child to a doctor. You have to seek medical treatment for this baby, like now, today. And my mom and dad were like, well, what are you talking about? My mom was just, oh, come on, mom, come on, what are you talking about? How do you know this? And my grandma says, you have to get him to a doctor. Something is wrong. Something is not right. And of course, like I said, when I was only 3 months old, she passed away. Um, and 2 years after the fact, in 1988, I was one and a half. It was in March. My brother had just turned 8. My brother Jay had turned 8 years old. And that was when we got the news that I had cancer. Um, my dad was at work when he got the phone call from the doctor, and he came home crying his eyes out. Um, and my mom had thought something serious, something else was going on. He just come home in tears. He just couldn't speak. He was just, and he was in hysterics. And my mom's like, "Come on, Wayne, what's wrong? What's going on? What's going on?" And he says, "I got a phone call at work today." And my mom says, "Yeah, and what's going on? Why are you so upset?" "Our baby has cancer, and we have to have him at Lansing Sparrow first thing tomorrow morning." And that's where it all began. And I just want to say that I had gone through so much. Vin Christine, I had that 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That was at in East Lansing on the campus of Michigan State University for 5 months, for 5 straight months, 3 times a week. I had vincristine, I had some other kind of chemotherapy, and I had 8 rounds of radiation. And I don't know if you've ever seen my battle scar, and I apologize if you can't see it, but there is a scar going across my stomach. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but that was from my cancer removal, my kidney removal rather. I had Wilms tumor. And then up here, if you guys can see that, right here is where I had the port for my chemotherapy. So those are my 2 major battle scars. Um, I was told a lot of different stories about my cancer battle when I was in the hospital. I had a lot of people come to see me in Lansing, family and friends, and even some people at our local church. They were always wanting to know, how's that little Jered doing? How's he doing? And I was even told that our local church, while I was away, the entire congregation had stood up and they all joined hands and they bowed and they said a special prayer for me. And that would be Racy Church over well, that way. It'd be west of me. It'd be M57 and Chapin Road. And it's still there after all these years. They let my mom and dad use their van to get back and forth to Lansing, and it's just a really rough time. And of course, this is all anecdotal testimony from what my parents had told me. So, I'm just kind of passing along what I've been told. It was just really rough. It was just really hard for all of us. I was kept in an isolation cage. And every so often, when it would be time for whatever it is, whatever tests or treatments or whatever I had to have done, I would come out and have it done, and back in the cage I go. My mom was telling me that when I was going through all of this, she said I reminded her of like a little octopus in a bed, 1.5 years old, and I've got all these wires hooked to me. I had IVs in my ankles. I had heart monitors. I had everything hooked to me. I was wired up. I was probed, and I didn't even look human. Because an octopus has like the tentacles that come off, but just all the wires, all the IVs, the needles, the just everything. I look like a robot. It was just, wow. It was just really that hard for us. And, the thing about when you have children in the hospital, children with cancer, is you always try to ensure their safety, their well-being, and you don't know if you're coming or going. And there are parents, and I'm not speaking about anyone here on Facebook, but there are parents who selfishly make it about them during their battle. And I speak of this because when I was having my battle, there was a little girl in the room next to me. Her name was Sierra, and she had cancer. And her mother had put signs up on the door. Do not disturb, because mommy needs her sleep. Even if it was the nurses or someone coming in to check on baby Sierra, mommy didn't want any of that because it was going to disturb her beauty sleep. She was really nasty to the staff at Sparrow. She did not really show any concern for her daughter who was sick, battling. Eventually, Sierra passed away. And it just gets to me how parents, I can understand when you are a parent of a cancer child, you have a lot on your plate. Without a doubt. I mean, make no bones about it. You have a lot going on up there. You don't know if you're coming or going. My parents were the same way. They didn't know if they were coming or going. I mean, they were scared out of their minds. However, my parents didn't put signs on the doors saying, stay out so I can get my beauty sleep. They're trying to save your child's life. And in order for them to do that, you have to allow them to come into the room. So that was one of the things that my mother, my mother even asked the staff member, can I just go over there and just grab her by her throat? No, Mrs. Fuller, if we do that, we'll have to call security. She says, as much as I would love to do the same thing myself, there is a thing called order that we have to maintain and uphold, not only for the safety of, or for the sake of our children here, but for the sake of the staff and all that stuff. And so, they made my mom and dad feel as much at home as possible. The doctors and the nurses, they always told my mom and dad, you know what? Jered may be your son, but he is also our child too. And we're going to make sure that your son is going to be okay. We're going to do the best we can to our ability. We're going to be there for him every hiccup, around the clock. They kept an eye on me. They watched me like a hawk. Every little hiccup, every little move I made, they were right there watching. They made sure that I was going to be okay. So this went on for a while, and of course I've been in remission now for 28 years. And this fellow over here, if you just give me a second here. There is a reason that at the age of 30, I still hold on to this guy. Because he was there. When I had cancer, he was there. Jered Bear was there. That's how I got my nickname Jered Bear. Because of Jered Bear. And most people would think, well, what's a 30-year-old walking around with his teddy bear? Well, first of all, I don't walk around with my teddy bear. But Jered Bear is an heirloom to my past life and all I had been through. And so every time I have doubts, am I not strong enough to get through whatever it is I have to get through in life? All I do is look at that scar on my stomach, or I look at Jered Bear and I'm reminded, you know what? I've been through some pretty hairy things in my life. Pretty hairy things. So if I could get through cancer, sky's the limit. I could get through anything. And that's kind of the attitude I have. It was rough, guys. And this is why I give back. This is why I pay it forward. And I show people that other people who are going through similar situations, cancer-wise or whatever, this is why I'm so passionate about childhood cancer awareness. This is why. I don't know how much more clear I can be about this. This is why I have my group, Jered's Cancer Warriors. This is why I always share my story with people, everything I've been through. And those of you who are from Chesaning, who are watching this, you may know a girl, well, she's a woman now, but you may know her. Her name is Melissa Priest. She's from Chesaning. She went to Chesaning schools. We grew up together. Melissa, now a corrections officer for the Michigan Department of Corrections, she was in the hospital at the same exact time, at the same exact place, for the same exact thing. Melissa Priest is also a childhood cancer survivor. My dad and her dad used to work at a place in St. Charles, Michigan. It's called Thompson Boats. It no longer exists. The building is still there, but it's not Thompson Boats anymore. You're talking 28 years since that time. Fred Priest was his name. And when my dad was in Lansing for me, he spotted Fred. He says, Fred, what are you doing here? And Wayne, what are you doing? Oh, man, my kid's got cancer, man. No kidding. My daughter Melissa has cancer. Get out of here. And it's like, really? How? How did that happen? So a lot of people may not have known this. Melissa and I were, we were fighting this monster together long before anybody from Chesaning, any of the other kids that we went to school with, long before they knew, Melissa and I were in the hospital together. So, but now she's a corrections officer, like I said, for the Michigan Department of Corrections. And I hear she's doing really good for herself. She's really, I see her once in a while in Michigan, very rare, or in Chesaning, of course, we're in Michigan. I see her in Chesaning once in a while on occasion. She comes up to visit family and such, because I'm assuming her family resides in the Chesaning area still. Um, but it really is a small world. And I don't know if she's, involved in the childhood cancer awareness or pediatric cancer awareness. Um, but I am. And if she ever one day decided to get involved, I would be so interested in just partnering up with her and bringing awareness to this thing together. Because I think she was about the same age. Because I was like 1.5, 2, and she was about around that same age. Because we were in the same grade, and we're about the same age. So yeah, but there's just a lot of back history about my childhood cancer awareness fight. Like I said, I don't remember the events as they were unfolding because I was too little, and I'm only going by anecdotal testimony. As far as parents who have lost children to this, my heart is with them, although I can't speak for them because I haven't gone through that. And the pain that they feel it's paralleled to, I don't know how they feel. I'll never know how they feel. But what I can say is that I'm sorry, and I offer my sincerest of condolences and apologies to those people who have lost children. It doesn't matter if it was yesterday or 20 years ago. My heart goes out to those people because while I do not understand that pain, I can say that I understand the battle. I understand the battle, and I can only relate on that behalf. Survival is people who survive cancer from all those years ago, they should talk about it. They should be more open about it, and they should be more vocal about it. And they should want to share their stories with other people. And just, because this has happened to me recently where I've had families pull back, where it was their own personal choice, no hard feelings or anything like that. They said, well, we feel as if we just want that part of our lives to remain private, which I can respect. I try not to take it personally. But there is a certain part of me that is bummed because, I'm reaching out to you. I'm showing you that I care. And when they pull back, it's like, well, I feel we lost connection somewhere along the way. I respect your position for wanting to, keep your that part of your life to yourself. But there are other people out here who have also survived, and we are there as a support group, as a support system. And when you pull back like that, it kind of, it's like, well, I respect your position, but it kind of bums me out. And I try not to take it personal, but it's hard not to. It's easier to say, don't take it personal than it is to actually react or feel that way. But I do respect whatever position it is that they take for pulling back away. But I do enjoy reaching out to people. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel as if I have a sense of purpose or meaning in my life, that I can write a poem or I can have a bird shirt made or just so much as reach out. It doesn't have to necessarily mean, give a gift to show that I care. It's just reaching out. Sometimes that's all a family really ever needs, is just someone to reach out and to say, hey, this person cares. This person gives a damn. And I'm one of those people who give a damn. I've always cared, and I will continue to care in spite of what the critics have to say. I don't care. I'm taking my personal experience in life, and I am opening my heart, and I am sharing my life of that, that part of my life. I'm opening up and I'm sharing that with other people who need it. I don't take blame in that. I'm not ashamed to share my story with other people. It's my way of helping people, giving people hope. And most importantly, showing these people how much they are loved and cared for by a fellow survivor. And for those people who don't understand my position or they question my motives for doing things, keep questioning. Keep questioning why I do the things. Someday and one day you're going to figure this out for yourself, and then you're going to stop asking questions. But however, if you are still interested and you have other questions about my cancer battle, please feel free to ask me. I will answer your questions as best as I can to the best of my knowledge. And maybe you won't think that I'm up to something, which is what most people think. Well, there's a reason why Jered is just all of a sudden reaching out to strangers and being nice to people, because I care. There's nothing wrong with caring. There's nothing wrong with paying it forward, which is exactly what I'm doing. So now that you guys know and you've seen my battle scars, which I've demonstrated on a couple other videos on my YouTube channel. So I just demonstrated again. And most people ask me, well, don't those scars go away after a while? No, they don't go away. The physical scars don't go away. The emotional scars don't go away. Ever. So, and here's another question regarding the emotional part of it. Well, Jered, you were too young. How could it have emotionally? Because it does. I have this discussion all the time with people. They say, well, you can't be that emotionally upset because you were just too little. You don't remember. That has nothing to do with it. I have, people who were there who are still alive, i.e. my parents. They can verify this, and I just demonstrated the scar on my stomach and the mark from my chemo port. My parents were there. They can account for all this. My brother Jay was there. There were people who were there. As a matter of fact, the oncologists, the pediatricians, Dr. Scott, Dr. Guerra, and Dr. Kulkarni, they were there for me back in 1988. They still work in Lansing after all these years. They're still in Lansing. They're not going anywhere. I don't think they're going anywhere. They've been in the Lansing area for years. And they're still there. They're not going anywhere. They have their own practice. Dr. Scott does. It's across the street from the main Sparrow Hospital. It's at a separate clinic. It's on Michigan Avenue. And Dr. Guerra and Dr. Kulkarni are also there at that clinic. But they do have their own practice now. And, they can verify. Do you remember a Jered Fuller? Phone them up, call them up. You remember a Jered Fuller? I'm sure they would. Dr. Scott should remember. I mean, I used to bring French fries to him all the time because he loves his McDonald's French fries. And he used to call me Jerry. That was my nickname for him, was Jerry. And not too long ago, I was in Lansing at Sparrow. I think it was like a couple of years ago or so, and I popped in, just a surprise, and Dr. Scott, I think he was in a conference room. And I'm just standing there in the doorway, and he looks up like this, and he says, "Oh my God." He couldn't believe it was me. He stood up real slow, and he says, "Jered." I said, "Dr. Scott." And he says, "Oh my God." He came up and gave me the biggest, oh my God, the biggest hug you guys could ever imagine. He says, "You have grown." He says, "You look incredible." He says, "How have you been?" And, we stood there and talked, and he introduced me to some of the other ladies in the conference room, and I shook their hands, and he says, "You know what?" He says, "This little boy survived cancer." He says, this was one of my patients from many years ago. He says, and I am so happy to see you today, standing here in front of me. And I'm trying not to get emotional, but I will always have a special place in my heart for Dr. Scott, Dr. Jered, Dr. Kulkarni, because they were there. Now, the surgeon who operated on me, Dr. Schneider, or Schneiderman, something like that. She removed my kidney. The kidney that was affected by Wilm's tumor. She died from cancer. Coincidence, right? Who knows? So yeah, I have quite the story to tell, and before anyone wants to make fun of me for being a 30-year-old, still having his teddy bear, we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot. So before you make assumptions, ask questions, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So I apologize to you guys for taking up a lot of your time, but I just wanted to firmly give a reason as to why I am so deeply involved in this raising awareness. You've seen the battle scars, you heard the story, and you've seen an heirloom to my past. And I thank you for watching. Much love to you always. Yesterday, today, tomorrow, and forever. I love you all. Peace.